Previously on Stay in Your Lane.
The thing I liked about transportation, and what I've always preached to people that are not in transportation or not in supply chain, I said, if you look at supply chain, you've got the warehouse, you've got customer service, you've got supply planning, demand planning, purchasing, whatever you want to call it, but you got transportation. But once it leaves the building, it's my problem, and if it doesn't get there, it's my problem. And guess what? 80% of the stuff out there, I probably can't control. So I always try to educate people that way, and just to let them know the value of transportation, of having a good, professional, leading edge supply transportation. So that's always been my mantra when I talk to people that are not in supply chain, or especially people in sales and finance.
If you're not involved in supply chain, I don't know that you really get it.
Yeah.
And so you relating it has to help. Because at the end of the day, when it leaves the dock, you have zero control.
I mean, perception is reality.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what the scorecard says. And you're really only as good, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but we used to say it, still say it, you're only as good as your last failure. Right?
Yeah.
That's
your last load.
That's what they remember.
Yep.
So you've got to, if something goes wrong, how quickly you react, how quickly you can recover.
Proactively fix it.
I tell people that, yeah, that's just great, Joey. I mean, it is. It's how the load shows up. That's
Absolutely.
What they think about me, and by extension, and sometimes unfairly, it's what they think about my company, right? So Nutrabolt is judged, fairly or unfairly, by how the loads that our supply chain team puts together, sends out the door, and sends to customers. So, the better we can do, and you don't think about that. You think about the product on the shelf. It looks nice, marketing is doing a great job, but for the folks that are actually moving your product, trying to do the best you can in that arena makes a big difference as well.
And the key is that if you're Coke or Pepsi or Frito-Lay or Pepperidge Farm or the dairies, I mean, they're controlling that supply chain all the way to delivery. So their guys are showing up, they're doing the merchandising, they're bringing it in the warehouse. You come to the main part of the grocery industry. I mean, I'm giving my product, or Nestle's product, to a third party, a carrier, who may not have that driver may have a bad day, he may not have the same goals that I have. So there's a lot of risk in that. So that's why the relationships absolutely are the most critical thing. Taking care of the drivers. And I just hearing what you're saying, John, your company's probably doing it. You're making the effort, with the relationships, coming to these conferences. I'm sure you've got a real drivers when they show up at your facility. I'm sure they're treated well. They're treated like a human. They're not like go wait outside and come back in 3 hours. So
yeah. We definitely try. It's a big part of it, right? Is that experience start to finish. We want to be professional. There's expectations, and if it's a driver coming in having a bad day, you also want to make sure that you're taking care of your warehouses, your shipping clerks. Just start to finish any interaction.
Right.
It's done well, it's done professionally, because all of that at the end reflects back on myself, my team, and ultimately on my company.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we perform at our best, everybody looks better.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're after.
And transportation is not just a cost center.
100%.
If it's done correctly, and you arrange it to be successful, and you provide that extra added service level for all the people that you do business with, you're a reflection on yourself and your clientele.
Absolutely.
Definitely. That's what transportation's about. Looking forward, it's going to get deep. What keeps you up at night in our industry? What are you concerned about?
Oh, let me think about what doesn't keep me up at night. So obviously there's kind of two parts to that. So as long as I've been in transportation or just in supply chain, operational day-to-day will keep me up at night. We're trying to execute every day. There's something new that we're trying to execute. It's a moving target sometimes.
And you have to rely on everyone in the network.
And we're relying on the entire network to come through for us. We're relying on communication, execution. So that's one side of it. So just your day-to-day, there's always something on my mind. I tell people it's not a joke. It really happens. I'll wake up at night, I'm thinking about an order or a load that just came in the day before. But on the other side of that, When you just look at the industry, geopolitically, I think is probably the biggest challenge right now. Kind of some of the unknowns when you look at the potential, that we've seen over the years. So between weather events, that's probably the one that can change the entire course of make your plans. They're all out the window, with a natural disaster or something of that type. But then geopolitically, right? So all the things going on around the world, it's the what if, right? You have to pay attention to what's going on in the world, and as best you can, you've got to make contingency plans, make plans for what if. If you're sourcing internationally, if you're just, over the road trucks, right? You're paying for fuel. What happens if your fuel all of a sudden, skyrockets over your projections? So whatever that looks like, it definitely can keep you up at night if you dwell too much on it. Now, on the flip side of that, you focus on what you can control.
Right.
You do well at what you can control, and the rest of it, I don't want to say what will be, but it will. And you plan for what you can plan for as best you can.
That's a good answer. I think that everyone, it's like retirement planning in our industry, right?
I'm getting close. I'm starting. I figure I need a jump start on the planning side of it.
If you're looking at, there are things that you aren't going to be able to control in that same scenario. And then when you retire, there's going to be things that you can't control, but you still have to plan for them. So you have to anticipate and say, if things go crazy, I know we're going to be okay because of X, Y, and Z in place. Right? You have to have that. So you want to, from that perspective, plan like it's not going to happen and operate like it's not going to happen. But if it happens, then what? You can't close the doors. You have to be successful. So what's it going to take and how are we going to go at it?
Yeah, 100%.
I think when COVID came, that opened a lot of people's eyes to being flexible, to be nimble. Do you have contingency plans in place? What happens if the factory line goes down for a month? How do you recover? What are the recovery plans, disaster recovery
Pallets,
plans?
cardboard sourcing.
We always talked about that, but when COVID came, it was like, holy shit, we really, don't edit that out. We really got to cover this now. So that's that's what I saw from COVID, and that kept me up at night, even though I was retired. So.
Well, you understood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's really the big part of it, right? When you look at, I hate to say if there was anything good out of COVID, it definitely identified weaknesses in the supply chain, risk in the supply chain. And I think when you look at the recovery, as time has progressed over the last few years, there have been good practices put into place that wouldn't have really been even addressed.
No, post-COVID, it's a better network.
It's a better network, and I think I hate to say we're almost a little, immune, or we've kind of just gotten used to, the bad news, right? So we've developed a little thicker skin in supply chain. What used to be kind of, this is the end of the world. I mean, this is terrible. After coming through COVID, if you've been in supply chain during COVID, you can handle just about anything else that's going to be thrown your way. So it's a little bit of trial by fire, and more than happy if we never ever have to go through something like that again.
Yeah.
But there definitely were some good learnings. I think there's been some strides, in supply chain, and the most important thing is some people actually know what supply chain is now.
Yes.
Well, every night it was on the news.
Absolutely. So
for 2 years.
Right.
So every time you turn on the news, supply chain, empty stores at groceries.
All the companies that when earnings came out, this was due to supply chain challenges. We didn't make our number. I mean, that was constant for 2 years, and it was probably 99% of the time.
The budget was thrown out the window.
It was true.
Oh yeah.
Its service, cost, everything.
Yeah. We did get blamed for everything.
Everything.
When you think about it.
Well, I think
they knew who we were, though. So.
Well, you were important.
Yeah, I was important. I was the guy that did it all wrong. We got blamed for everything, but they knew who supply chain was. But I think the narrative was interesting, so it did change. So it was like the supply chain is shut down. I mean, it's terrible, right? And then all of a sudden, truckers became the saviors, which was good to see.
Heroes.
They were absolutely the local heroes, right?
We got toilet paper now.
And the fact that you got toilet paper was due to that trucker. And people started to connect the dots that canned goods didn't show up magically on the shelf. And toilet paper didn't just auto-replenish,
Right.
at the store. So that was good. I think the one, when you look at how things, you become complacent, you go through the disaster, you recover, things are getting a little better, you go to the store, all your favorite brands of toilet paper back on the shelf, including the extra soft, right? So now you start to become a little complacent. You don't have quite the same patience you had for the truck drivers that you had during COVID when you knew they might be delivering baby formula or toilet paper. So you kind of gave them a little bit of room. Hopefully some of those learnings kind of stick around, and people still kind of remember what it was like.
I hope there's more respect. I hope
Absolutely.
when we get through it. I think that's where we need to be.
Absolutely.
As an industry, I think we need to have more respect across the board.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.